Hi there, I'm Conrad Hall. Let's talk about what we need. What do we need? First thing, since it's a current need for me, it is 40 degrees Celsius with the humidex today in Toronto. So that would be roughly 110 degrees Fahrenheit. 108, 110 degrees with the humidex. So if you are hearing a little bit of a wind blowing, that would be because I have a fan over there on the other side of the room giving me a breeze. So if it interferes with you hearing me, I do truly, honestly apologize. At the same time, I'm sorry, I have zero intention of turning that fan off. Because it's really hot around here today. So okay, let's talk about, needs. First thing I'll do is, let's define a need, and I have a definition written down. Something without which life cannot be sustained. So food, water. Or life cannot be experienced to its fullest. So a really big example is a baby's need for attention. I'm going to get into that a little bit more as we go along. Another one is, simply being able to enjoy yourself. If, for whatever the reason, you are unable to relax to the point where you can just enjoy yourself, then it has really negative health effects. Another one that I have marked down here is making choices about activities in which you engage. And the reason I phrase it that way is the need to which that refers is freedom. Well, if you happen to be incarcerated, if you are in prison, then clearly you lack a lot of freedom. But the way that you satisfy that need under those circumstances is you still get to choose some of the activities in which you engage. You can choose to read a book, you can choose which book to read. You can choose to participate in programs. There are very few choices you can make because you are incarcerated, but there is still some measure of freedom that you can experience and relish. So here are the needs. They are belonging, survival, fun, freedom, and purpose. Now you can see right off the bat, these are categories of needs more than they are a specific need. So in the realm of survival, clearly you need food. What food you have is kind of a choice, and you might prefer one over another, but you need food for survival. You also, for example, I live in Toronto, Ontario, Canada. Right now in the summer, it's quite hot. You're pretty much okay being outside. Today would be very uncomfortable, but you would be okay. But in January, February, March, you definitely want a place to live, a roof over your head. So there are lots of things that fall within survival, belonging, fun, freedom, and purpose. And there's also ranking in the needs. This tends to upset, psychiatrists, psychologists, and so on. There is an actual ranking. And it comes basically from the order in which you experience the needs. So when you are born, okay, you need food, whether that's formula or, mother's breast milk, and then moving on to solid foods, etc. Babies kind of have no need for fun, no concept of fun. They very specifically are deprived of freedom in that when a child is born, they are immediately swaddled. And I'm sure we've all heard the phrase swaddling cloths. And the idea there is you wrap a baby tightly in cloth rather than a nylon or a plastic tarp, or you wrap them in cloth so that they're comfortable. But the idea behind swaddling a baby is that they are held very closely, and it kind of mimics being in the womb, that they're being held very closely. Babies tend to find it soothing. And then once they kind of start to get accustomed to the idea of being out of the womb, babies actually dislike being swaddled, but they do like being cuddled. They also enjoy having their freedom, being able to kick their legs and move their hands and do all kinds of things. Purpose, we will get into that a lot, and you will hear me talk about purpose fairly consistently. It's a really important thing. But we kind of have no requirement for purpose. It never becomes a need until we kind of get into high school, around that age. And then we start looking for purpose. As a 10-year-old or an 8-year-old or a 4-year-old, whatever, you will tend to have purpose for as long as the thing holds your attention. So my purpose is to win this game. My purpose is to catch you because we're playing tag. My purpose is to stick this plug into this hole, or whatever it is that you're doing. But when you are young, very young, a child, your purpose can and does change very rapidly. So the first need we experience is actually belonging. Survival obviously is really important. We need to be fed. But if your need for food and drink, being kept warm, all those kinds of things, are being met, but you have no belonging. No one is holding you, no one is touching you and caressing you, and, basically being a mom or dad, then a baby will fail to thrive. They won't quite die, but they will fail to thrive. Their development will be significantly inhibited. And I do always, there's always a script. Belonging comes first. Babies who, and there might be a spot in the script later for me to cover this, but I want to cover it now, especially around this thing of belonging and why I'm putting it even ahead of survival. So survival is a need at every age, at every aspect of life. Without anything to drink, I think the absolute longest we will survive is 4 days. There might be somebody who manages to go longer, but part of what happens is when you have no liquids coming in, is you start to experience brain damage in addition to the rest of your body, obviously dying. So survival is absolutely important. But there was a study done in the 1940s, and let me be clear, because I have spoken about this with a lot of people, and what I want to be clear on is that this was a study. This was an observational process rather than an experiment. No one set this up to see what would happen. The observation was in one group, it was babies that were in an orphanage. In the other group were babies that were in a prison maternity ward. And what they were observing was how much interaction the children were getting. How often were they held? How often were they cuddled? Could they see each other? Could they see the staff people, whether it's in the prison or the orphanage? Again, because I'm reading the script, that the location of the babies was just what was happening. Nobody changed anything about the way people worked in the orphanage. Nobody changed anything about the way people worked in the maternity ward. Nobody changed anything about how often the mothers could come and go and be with their children. But the important thing, and let me read this because I want to make sure that I get it right. So in the orphanage, the babies were more or less cut off from human contact in their cribs. They were put in a crib, they were certainly comfortable, they were kept warm, their survival needs were being met. But there was no one interacting with them. The staff, because one staff person would have to look after 10, 12 babies. And then they had their regular work to do. So the babies in the orphanage had very little interaction with either each other or other human beings. I made a note. Each nurse in the orphanage had to care for 7 babies. Okay, so that's a lot. Looking after 7 children is hard enough. 7 babies is incredible. Now, the babies in the prison maternity ward, they received care and affection from their mothers every day. The mothers came in to be with them, would feed the children, all of that. They could also see each other and prison staff throughout the day. So, let's say all the mothers came in at 7 o'clock in the morning to do breakfast and feed their babies. And then the mothers would leave and do whatever it is that you do while you are in prison. So the mothers would come back at, say, 11 o'clock, 4 hours later. So every 4 hours there's a feeding. So the mothers are there maybe from 7 until 8. Then from 8 until 11, the mothers are somewhere else. But there's still staff in the prison maternity ward who, if the baby cries, needs to be changed, anything along those lines, they can take care of that. In addition, the babies are not simply isolated in cribs, they are in situations where they can see each other. More like when you go to a hospital and you see the babies in the maternity ward, and the babies clearly can see each other. In a maternity ward, when the babies have just been born, they really don't care about seeing each other. But by the time a baby is 2 months, 3 months, 6 months, a year old, they absolutely care about seeing each other, seeing other human beings, in addition to their mother. I have a URL where you can read more about the study. I'll make sure that is in the description. Okay, so that is why I put belonging ahead of survival. Because as a baby, without belonging, your development is stunted. It ends up being retarded. You actually end up, the babies initially in the first 30 days, I think it was, there's no perceptible difference. But then as the babies begin to hold their head up, they start to crawl, they start to have interactions. The babies that were in the orphanage lagged several months behind the babies that were in the prison maternity ward. And even as an adult, there are all kinds of studies coming out that people are going, oh, look at this amazing information. Ho, 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 ho. Being lonely sucks. Being lonely can really affect your health negatively. Well, yeah, I could have told you that. Now, anybody who stops and thinks about it for a minute would realize there is a huge difference between being alone, so going down to the beach, watching the sunset, just thinking, meditating. There are lots of opportunities to be alone versus being lonely. Because being lonely means you wish someone else were there. But being alone, you might be doing that for meditation, for reflection. Simply, you are out for a walk to get some exercise. So you are alone. I walk the streets of Toronto. And I do it alone when I'm walking for exercise, because I'm walking fast enough that, having a conversation would be kind of iffy. And that means someone being able to keep up with me is, yeah, maybe they could, maybe they couldn't. And I really don't have anyone with whom I go for walks, so I go alone. Before I move on to the next section, I also want to talk about purpose, although it comes into our life last. So we have belonging, belonging to a group, knowing that we're loved, knowing that people care about us. Then there's survival, we need to eat. Fun and freedom, because, fun, we begin experiencing fun as children. As children, in general, we love to laugh, we love to, get surprises, all that kind of stuff. And freedom, a big part of growing up is consistently and constantly working at expanding our freedoms. We get more responsibility, so we're too young to take out the garbage, then we get the responsibility of the garbage, which includes the freedom of being able to go outside alone to walk to the garbage cans or to walk to the street to put the garbage in a garbage can. Then comes purpose. And it comes into our life last, because around 12, 13 years of age, when we start as young adults, we start developing a purpose. And our purpose could be to be an artist. Our purpose could be to be an astronaut. Whatever it is, our purpose could be to be, a really great mom or a really great dad. It's interesting as a need, because as you develop a purpose, your purpose can reshape who you are in the same way that bodybuilding can reshape your body. So, I'm sure you've heard of people who, like me, they've had more than one career, they've done more than one thing, which means that your purpose changes. You might be working in a factory, or as a carpenter, or as a doctor, and you do this thing for 20 years, and you say, I have done this long enough. I want to go do something else. So then you become an author, or you become an artist doing painting, or you become a lawyer. You do something else. Well, when you do something else, you have a new purpose. Now, your fundamental vision might remain the same, that you want to help people or you want to entertain. Let's say you are a carpenter. And I use that because I am a retired carpenter. So when you first start out, your goal is or your purpose is to be a really good carpenter. Well, then you meet somebody and you get married and you have children. So now you have a second purpose where we are having children. So I want to be a really good dad. Or if you're a girl, you want to be a really good mom. So now you have two purposes. One, I want to do my job really well. Firefighter, lawyer, doctor, carpenter, whatever it is. I also want to do this other job really well, being a parent. So what your purpose is reshapes who you are, far more than fun or freedom. Survival only shapes who you are when you are, for example, malnourished, or you are overly nourished, and then you get reshaped into a circular shape. Oh, I don't know if I mentioned it, but it is the 5th of July while I'm shooting this, and I did join a gym at the beginning of July, weighed myself, and I am down to 234 pounds. Yay, me! Ah, absolutely. Because my starting point was 354. So I am down 120 pounds. Yay! Which makes it much easier to survive. Okay, so the next thing I want to do is look at some of the 20th century thinking on needs. And there are basically two big names in this area. One, Abraham Maslow. Pretty much everyone has heard of Maslow's hierarchy of needs. The other is William Glasser. Both of these guys are doctors, and they are contemporaries of one another. Maslow perished before Glasser. They are both deceased, but they were both born in the 20th century, and Dr. Glasser died in the 21st century. Dr. Maslow died in the 20th century. So these were big names. They followed on to Freud and Jung. So Jung and Freud are the two big names in psychology and thoughts in psychiatric circles. And according to Maslow, there are 5 needs, 5 areas of need. He grouped them as physiological, so he got a little more specific in the survival arena. So physiological needs are housing, food, water, things that you physically need to stay alive. Safety, so knowing that when you go to bed at night, no one is going to break into your house. So he included knowing that you live in a place with laws, that you're free of persecution. Then love and belonging, and I'm going to come back to that in just a second. Esteem and self-actualization. Now the thing about Maslow's approach is he said that they occur in a hierarchy. Sort of in the same way that I listed needs in the order that we experience them. But Maslow's idea was, if you are working on your esteem needs or your self-actualization needs, and for some reason your physiological needs or your safety needs somehow stop being met, well, you need to stop what you're doing and go back to satisfy those needs. Yeah, that actually doesn't work. Now, in the 3rd edition of Maslow's textbook, that idea was revamped. The thing to know is that the 3rd edition of Maslow's textbook was published posthumously for Maslow. So I am unclear whether it's Maslow who changed his mind, or if it was the editors who said, yeah, maybe this hierarchy thing doesn't work so well. So if there's someone who has been studying this kind of stuff at university and knows, was it actually Maslow changing his mind and realizing that this thing doesn't work like that? Or was it the editors? I would be interested to know. Because some real quick examples. Someone in prison. So their physiological needs are being met. Their safety needs, that's truly iffy. And as for love and belonging, yeah, really not. But self-actualization, well, yeah, there are lots of people in prison who get creative. They paint, they write, they complete university education, they improve themselves. So their lower level needs are not being met in terms of safety and love and belonging, but they absolutely fulfill their self-actualization. Another is Anne Frank, the young girl who kept a diary while hiding to stay safe from Nazis. So, her physiological needs were not really being met. She was malnourished, just like anyone who was hiding at that time was, not getting quite enough food. Even people that weren't hiding, that were in prison camps, were getting insufficient food. Clearly her safety was in jeopardy every day. And love and belonging for her was met because she was hiding with her family. But esteem, her esteem needs would have been eroded every single day because of the message being sent by the Nazi regime. So this idea that, if you are working on self-actualization and somehow your safety is impaired, well, you have to go take care of that before you can keep working on self-actualization. Sorry, that just isn't the way it works. There are lots of examples in our world that show that. And I'm reading through the script because I'm kind of getting ahead of where I think I am, so I need to check. You know what I mean? Oh, the esteem needs. Yes. Here's another thing. So the fourth level of Maslow's hierarchy is esteem. It's explained saying esteem needs are related to a person's need to gain recognition, status, and feel respected. Once someone has fulfilled their love and belonging needs, they seek to fulfill their esteem needs. Well, no. That's completely untrue. There are lots of folks who go through life without ever being particularly recognized, without ever particularly having status, and they may not feel respected, but they still manage to move forward. Taylor Tomlinson? I did not write down her name. She's a young woman, just, I think, turning 30. She is a comedienne, and this is a woman who, nothing about anything she does suggests any feeling of self-respect, let alone that she feels well-respected by others. Now, clearly, she is well-respected by others. She is a successful comedienne. She does engagements almost every day of the year. She does shows all of the time. She is having tremendous success, but she still feels in some way, shape, or form unworthy, and that comes across in all of the things that she says. And it would be really easy to say, well, that's just a bit, that's just, Rodney Dangerfield, I get no respect. But when you listen to her, it clearly goes deeper than that. And the things that she talks about when she is doing a show make it clear that she has self-image issues and she has self-esteem issues. And the way you can consider it is self-esteem is thinking about, well, how do other people view me? Okay, so it's from the outside in. Self-image is from the inside. How do I see myself facing outward? I know I have more to say on that, but I'm gonna stick to the script so I don't get too far out from where I want to be. Self-actualization, that just means doing what it is that you are able to do. So becoming a lawyer and being a very good lawyer, becoming a carpenter and being a very good carpenter. And I've covered off the idea that you can fulfill different needs at different times, even though some needs are going unsatisfied. Which brings me into the way Dr. Glasser looks at needs. And he also put them in 5 groups. He put power, specifically that people seek power for power's sake, which is just untrue. Not everyone does that. Another is love and sex, where Maslow said love and belonging, Glasser said love and sex, fun, freedom, and survival. Now, Glasser said that no one need is any more important than any other, which is clearly untrue. He had access to the data on the same study that I just told you about, where babies were studied in an orphanage and a prison maternity ward. So clearly he would have had seen that, belonging is a hugely much more important need than the others at the beginning of life. And he looked at the needs and said, well, they coexist. We work to satisfy each of those areas of need, but they compete against one another. So when you are having fun, you might be doing it at the expense of your purpose. In some cases, your idea of fun might be climbing mountains, in which case you might very well be putting your survival at risk. That's very different from the needs competing with one another. You are climbing the mountain, and you are doing it because that makes you feel alive. It makes you feel that you are truly surviving and thriving. So it's much less that the needs work to compete against one another. And I can see, I have a diagram a little later in this, well, two diagrams actually, a little later in the script to talk more about this. But what I want to start with is this whole idea about love and belonging in the case of Maslow, and love and sex in the case of Glasser. Because psychiatrists are hugely focused on sex. It stems from Freud and it stems from Jung, both of whom, they had a lot of issues around sex. And both of them had some negative behavior when it comes to sex. The thing I want you to be sure of is that anytime somebody tells you there is a problem with this thing, lying is a problem, cheating is a problem, sex is a problem, the reason they are telling you that that is a problem is because it's a problem for them. If, in my case, I have a real issue around trust. I find it difficult to trust people. Now, the foundation to that is I grew up with parents that I was unable to trust. I had parents who lied to me regularly. But where the trust issues come from as an adult is not that my parents lied to me. It's that for a very significant portion of my adult life, I also told lies. And I was untrustworthy. And I find that as I make the effort to be trustworthy, to consistently tell the truth, to consistently represent myself in an honest way, that it is easier for me to trust other people. Because I am reshaping myself. Part of my purpose is to be trustworthy, is to make sure that I am telling things in an open, honest way. And so it becomes easier for me to believe that other people also behave that way, and so they are talking to me in an open and honest way. Does that make sense? I hope it does. If not, by all means, please put a question down in the comments. I'm happy to answer. And it centers around, because we all have it, it all centers around bias. So, here's an example. Volunteered with a woman. And I say it that way because she was the choir leader in a church that I attended for a while. Something came up at some point, and I either asked for a ride or she mentioned something about being unable to give me a ride. And she made the point that she was unable to do it because her husband was really uncomfortable with the idea of her being alone in a car with another man. And I immediately recognized the symptom and said, whoa, you need to check that out. If he doesn't trust you to be alone in a car with another man, or to be alone with another man, you need to check what it is that he's doing. It turned out she, took my advice, and it turned out that he was cheating. So it's, when someone says, that really bothers me, you need to just stop and go, okay, if that really bothers this person, if seeing someone else get angry really bothers them, maybe they have a problem with anger. If they don't want you to be alone with a woman or with a man, depending on who you are, then maybe it's because they can't be trusted to be alone. Okay? So we all have these biases, and they tend to kind of make it hard for us to see things. It requires a lot of effort to see through your bias. That's one reason why I suggest being very careful if somebody says, I know what your problem is. Because that's probably someone who is seeing you through their bias And so when they're telling you this is your problem, the truth is that that is a problem for them. They may or may not be working on resolving it, but they're telling you that it is your problem because of how they see it through their bias. I did have a note on the study on babies. It was conducted by Rene Spitz. So Rene is R-E-N-E, and this will be in the description. And it is S-P-I-T-Z in the 1940s. And the whole key to the study was looking at how much physical contact a baby was getting with other people. And as I mentioned before, there was no contrived grouping of the babies or anything like that. But the babies in the orphanage were more or less cut off from physical contact. And babies in the prison ward received care, medical care. They received affection from their mothers every day. They could also see each other in the prison staff. Okay, so when you're looking at your needs, I want to bring this back to Dr. Glasser and his idea that the needs compete with one another. So, in his vision, there's you, and then your needs. Survival, belonging, fun, freedom, purpose. And they're all kind of going off in their own direction. And you might have to sacrifice one to satisfy another. Now think about when he grew up. 20th century, 1940s, 1950s. The idea was very much that people were doing jobs, no fulfillment, no, continuing education, nothing along those lines. So doing your job, which allowed you to survive, doing your job had no fun, no real freedom, and doing your job might have absolutely nothing to do with your purpose in life. So there's a bias. This is what he saw. And when he developed his methodology, which is called choice theory, the idea being that all we do as human beings is choose, and the only thing that we can control as human beings is our behavior, the things that we choose to do. So he got this idea that the needs all pull in separate directions. I call that the miserable approach. I much prefer a purpose-driven approach, where there's you, and view it more as though you are driving a sled with sled dogs, and your needs are the sled dogs. The dog that's in the lead, that's your purpose. When you find your purpose is out front. And your purpose could be being a great parent, as well as being a great carpenter. It's fine to have more than one thing in that category of purpose, in the same way that you have bacon and eggs for one meal, but you have oatmeal for another meal. Okay? So what I like to look at is taking fun and freedom, taking belonging and survival, and slaving them to my purpose. So one of my purposes is to lose weight and be healthy. Now, I've already done a really good job. I mentioned at the start of this video, I'm down 120 pounds. That is a whole human being. I have 39 more pounds that I want to shed to get down under 200. I want to get down to 195. So that's a purpose. That means when I'm having fun, I want to make sure that I avoid having donuts as part of the fun, or having lots of fast food as part of the fun, because those things actually work against my purpose. When it comes to survival, and I look at what I'm eating, so something I have been doing over the last couple of days is looking at both how many calories do I take in a day, and how much protein am I taking in a day. And I know for protein, I'm currently around 120 grams per day. Well, that's far too low. Because I weigh 234 pounds, I need to be up around 200 grams of protein a day to be bringing my weight down. Now, if I get to, say, 160, 170, I'm going to be fine with that. And so, one of the things that I've done is I've picked up some protein powder. I mix that in with my spinach shake, so that gives me an extra 21 grams of protein. I use quinoa. I was using nothing in terms of, like, I still eat no potatoes, no rice, nothing along those lines. A friend of mine, actually a neighbor here in the building, told me about quinoa, and I just never paid attention to it. In my mind, quinoa is sort of like salsa in that people like it because they like to say the word. Salsa, quinoa, ooh, I'm cool, yeah. Well, a neighbor told me, what quinoa is and, the ingredients that are, not the ingredients, the nutrients that are in quinoa. Quinoa, it turns out, has protein in it, quite a bit of protein. So one of the other things that I'm doing, eating quinoa, I have protein powder to use. I also am now cooking fish, and I'm having a haddock fish fillet every day for one meal. So I have haddock with mixed vegetables and quinoa. Another meal I'll have ground beef with mixed vegetables and quinoa. I'll have sausages with mixed vegetables and quinoa. Or more accurately, I will have a sausage with mixed vegetables and quinoa. So everything, there's that purpose of being fit, being healthy, and losing weight. So when I look at the other things I do in my life, they need to serve that purpose. Another component of my purpose is this, being of help to people and explaining things. Does that have anything to do with survivability? No, not really. This has no effect on where I live or what I eat or anything along those lines. The only kind of maybe possibly survival component is the fact that I'm filming this in my living room, and I've mentioned before that's the window to my living room, so there's lots of light coming that way, and I have a studio light. Where's my hand? There it is. So I have a studio light over there that shines so that I get light on this side of my face. Otherwise, I kind of end up looking like Two-Face. This side ends up being very dark, and this side ends up being very, very bright. So everything can slave together to serve your purposes. And, you can see that makes you far more focused. It has you moving in a single direction. Even if you have 2, 3, or 4 purposes. I want to be a great parent. I want to be a great husband. I want to lose weight. I want to help people build stronger, more positive self-images. It's easy to see how those things intermingle, and it's also easy to see how you can make everything else in your life serve those purposes. So that when I'm out having fun, I still can be of help to people. I still, it's hard to be a loving husband because I'm unmarried at this point. But I can still be losing weight. I feel like I'm starting to beat this, that the horse is down and, okay, it's already done. I think it's just really important to get how life is much more productive if you view the needs as working together, as working toward an achievement of being a great parent, being a great doctor, being a great lawyer, whatever it is that you're doing, losing weight. All of your needs can work toward fulfilling your purpose. And what I want to do, I thought I had 2 more pages left. I actually just have one side of one page. is I just want to clarify a little bit between what is a need and what is a want. And I'm going to just walk through each category. So belonging. We need to belonging. We need to be loved. I've mentioned before, and I'm sure I will mention repeatedly, a human being requires 8 meaningful physical contacts a day just to maintain good physical and mental health. Okay, so just to be, emotionally satisfied, to be mentally healthy, to be physically healthy, you need to have 8 meaningful physical contacts a day. We, on the other hand, want sex. Okay? That's certainly a physical contact. That's certainly touch. So it can contribute to your need for belonging, your need for feeling loved. But we don't need sex. Talk to anybody who is single, who has gone without sex for any period of time, and they may be unhappy, but you're never going to perish without it. Another thing that I find really interesting that I want to point out is that we have a need to be loved, but there's no actual need to love someone else. Case in point, a baby. A baby doesn't love anybody. A baby really has no awareness of its surroundings. So it doesn't have the emotion love, it doesn't have the emotion anger, it has no emotions because it has no understanding of the world around it or have wants. It just knows, I'm hungry, I am uncomfortable because I pooped in my diaper. It doesn't, a baby doesn't know at 3 weeks of age, a baby doesn't know that it pooped in its diaper or peed in its diaper. It just knows that, that something on my body is cold, something on my body is uncomfortable. It doesn't even process its body. It doesn't have that much awareness. But it still needs to belong. And as we grow up, we can live, and I'm sure we have all seen people who really don't love anybody else. They still want to be accepted, they still want to be loved, but they really don't care about anybody else. It's an interesting point. It's something that I find well worth remembering. I'm not sure if that's police or ambulance. Kind of sounds like maybe an ambulance, because if it were police, the siren would keep going. Survival. So we need food. We need water. Other liquids will do. There's especially a real thing going on right now about how water might not be the best thing for hydration. Blah, 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 blah. Okay, well, the human body is something in the realm of 70 to 80% water. So I have no idea what these folks are trying to push, but it's clearly an agenda to get you to drink something other than water, which probably stems from the fact that we have had decades of being told, drink 8 glasses of water a day, drink lots of water, stay hydrated, drink lots of water. And my thought, no proof, no evidence for this at all, but drink companies who want to sell more drinks are saying, hey, these other things are better for hydration than water. Okay. And when they talk about this, they talk about studies that measure hydration. Okay, that's probably police. I have no idea what's going on, but evidently someone is needed somewhere for something police do. At any rate, okay. So, what was I talking about? I think I was still talking about the love stuff. Let's go on to food. Oh, water. I was talking about the water and all of it. It's, I don't know. But what I wrote down actually is, what we want is roast beef and mashed potatoes. Yummy. We might want factory-prepared vegan stuff. Really kind of mind-boggling to me. You want to eat this food that was prepared in a factory, that's essentially glued together, because you dislike what's being done in the meat industry. Yeah, I find it confusing. What can I say? You might like rum punch, but all we need is food. So Alpo, a dog food, or Friskies, a cat food, will keep you alive. But it may be something other than what you would actually like to be eating for lunch or for dinner. For fun. We need, as human beings, we need to rest and relax. We need time to recharge. So sleep, have dreams. But we need to relax. Now, you might find playing chess relaxing. You might find going to the gym and working out like Arnold Schwarzenegger. You might find that relaxing. What it is that you do to relax is less important than the simple fact that there is something you do to relax. Your mode of relaxation might be to meditate. Okay? It can be anything. And this relates to fun. So we need to rest and relax, but your idea of fun is what changes, is what's different for all kinds of people. Maybe you play cards, or hike in the woods, whatever it is. Woodworking might be your hobby, and you find it very relaxing. Then there's freedom. So, and I talked about this earlier. This is where I was talking about when you're in prison, clearly your freedom is very significantly circumscribed. I'll have to look that up. Yes, circumscribed. The other word I was thinking of is circumnavigated, which would be going around the world, or going around something. You can circumnavigate a barn, which simply means you walk around the outside of the barn. You can circumnavigate the interior of the barn, which means you walk around the interior. But in prison, your freedom is much more restricted. It is circumscribed. It's confined. But you still get to choose some of your activities, what to read, groups in which you participate, to some extent, conversations that you have. Okay? Now, what we want to do for freedom is, for example, because I write and, books and articles and stuff, so I'll go to a coffee shop and maybe have a tea and sit and work while I'm in the coffee shop, or go to the beach and sit and think. Even just go to the beach to go to the beach. I like the way that sounds. Go to the beach. Go to the beach. It runs together very nicely. And then there's purpose. So fundamentally, purpose is our reason for getting out of bed every day. Or my reason for getting out of bed every day. I'm a me, not a we. Royalty says we. People not royalty say me. So we need a reason to get out of bed. Now, for some folks, that reason is just to go to work and pay the bills. For other folks, it's to be great parents. It's to be very good at what it is they do to make a living and to make a paycheck. But we all need something to get out of bed. What that something is really determines how fulfilled we feel in life. So if your purpose is simply getting up and going to work, earning a paycheck, making a living, you are probably going to feel very little fulfillment. But if your purpose when you get out of bed is, in my case, so my purpose is to exercise, lose weight, do these videos, write the books that I'm working on, communicate with folks. These are things that I enjoy doing, and as I get them done, for example, When I joined the gym, and I joined on the 1st of July, which happens to be Canada Day here in Canada, so think of Independence Day on the 4th of July if you're in the United States, except ours is on the 1st of July, Canada Day. And so I joined the gym, I went and weighed myself, and when I got on that scale and saw that I weigh in at 234 pounds, was I ever happy? Was my purpose ever being fulfilled and satisfied? So that's the needs. The next video I'm going to do, it'll be episode 3, I believe, is all about PEP and POOP, what they are, what they mean, how they really relate back to the needs. And then already uploaded are episodes 4 through 9, which tell my story, why it is that I'm doing all of this stuff, where it is that I came from, how I got to where I am in life today. So that's it, that's all. If you have questions or comments, please, by all means, put them below in the comments. If it's something a little more personal and you want to reach out to me, there is an email address at the bottom of the description so that you can send me an email. It's set up, I think I put in the word @ instead of the symbol, and the reason for doing that is so nobody can just scrub and get the email address. You actually have to read it and then type it for yourself. But yeah, please, give me the thumbs up. That's hugely valuable to the channel. It helps, reach out to more people. It is obviously the #1 metric that YouTube uses to measure success. So, there's the thumbs up that you like it. If you've watched this far, that's another very important metric to YouTube, the fact that you actually watched the video. And subscribe. That will make the videos pop up in your feed so that you'll see when I have loaded something new. And yeah, that's it. The only other thing is I am working at recording videos, episodes, loading them into YouTube, and setting them for release dates. There's a fellow I watch, his name is Clinton. His channel is CNC Equipment, and he has videos loaded out for a couple of months so that he can do various things that he does without having to worry about getting videos uploaded. He is a great example. I like watching his stuff. He's a mechanic. I like watching his stuff, and I really like his approach to getting these videos done. So I am working at doing the same thing so that there will be content. And then I'm unsure how it will work, but if something comes up that's topical, I can record another video and release that. See, I'm not clear just how that will work, but rather than bothering you, rather than boring you with my ruminations, let me sign off. Thank you very much for watching, and I look forward to seeing you with another video.